has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
I think it's funny that Clayton Kershaw has so much juice that the Dodgers are playing in Peoria right now against the Padres, and ESPN is interviewing Kershaw. I have no idea where, at the hotel room, at his house in Dallas. He is not with the team at all. They're like, yeah, show up the first week and we're fine with you. He's been there so long. He's not even with the team. The guy's in a T-shirt in his garage doing an interview with ESPN. It's unbelievable. But we're with the Prime Minister, which is the way it ought to be, on a Friday. Good to have you with us. And we'll start with this, College Rack. A big upset last night. But I got to tell you, it's not that big when you're dealing with two really good teams. Washington State is legit. Don't buy into the ranking of 21st against the fourth-ranked Arizona Wildcats, because the Cougs went into the McHale Center in Tucson and won that game outright, 77-74. How about this Jalen Wells play? This is a 4-point play on FS1.
Ballo has a hand on it. Yakumovsky rips it away from the corner. Got it! Wow. Jalen Wells. Contact. He goes down into the front row of the crowd. Are you kidding me? With a chance for a 4-point play.
And he made it.
Yes!
And listen, this guy, it sounded like a hockey game at first with the guy's name. Like the guy had like a Russian name. Anyway, so here's the deal. Like, that's an enormous win for Washington State. We welcome our radio affiliate, SiriusXM, Channel 159 Sports Byline. It's coast to coast on a Friday. I'm Ferrall in New York City with the Prime Minister of Canada, Cam Stewart, live in Toronto with us. And here's the deal. They're going to be in the tournament. They're going to be a mid-level seed. They are going to kick Arizona State's ass this weekend in Tempe. They went to Tucson and rolled Arizona. Now you go finish off the state and beat Arizona State. And Bobby Hurley's team is flat out awful. They're like a game under 500. And the rumor is, Cam, that he's ready to run out of Tempe and get out of Dodge and stop coaching at Arizona State. And if he got an offer to go somewhere else, like let's say Ohio State, but I don't think he's going to go there. I think they're going to get Dusty May down at FAU to end up in Columbus. And what I wish would happen, to be perfectly frank, is, and they don't have the stones to do it because they don't like to give out buyout money. I wish Indiana would fire Woodson and hire Dusty May in Bloomington, where he was a ball boy and an assistant manager for Bob Knight back in the day in Bloomington.
Good call, Scott. I'll tell you something. This Washington State team gets no respect, and you said it. They're just on a heater. You can't bet against them right now. They are not a 21 seed. They're playing more like a top 10 team right now. That is a huge win. They've swept Arizona in Pullman and in Tucson. They get it done again. 13-point dogs winning outright. I love it. I'm wearing crimson for the Cougars, baby. This team's on fire. I'm loving it.
Yeah, great team to bet on right now. And in conference tournament play in Vegas and in the NCAA tournament, no matter where they go, watch out for the Cougs. Number 3, Purdue stomped Rutgers 96-68 in West Lafayette. Edey had 25, 7 rips, 2 blocks, 11 for 11 from the line, 7 of 8 from the floor. That's because every shot he takes is a lob dunk, or it's just a little mini hook from 3 feet out. The guy is an absolute unstoppable force. And I'll tell you this much. They are Rutgers trash this year. But next year when they get Dylan Harper, people are licking their chops in northern New Jersey to see Dylan Harper play at Rutgers, because we've seen this kid play at Don Bosco High School here. And the reality is this. Cam, he's as good as his dad. And his dad won 5 NBA rings. And his dad, of course, a legend in Chicago and elsewhere. But the reality is his brother is in the NBA right now, in the G League, right now injured. And his brother was a badass at Rutgers. And the same path he took from the same high school to the same college, he's doing the exact same thing. And, I know Dylan, and I've seen him train every day at 5 a.m. when I go to play basketball for like the last 2 years. I've seen this kid grinding with his 2 trainers. This kid means business. I've seen this kid knocking down 100 shots at a time, and he don't miss. I am telling you, unequivocally, he's the number 2 player in the country. And they got the number 3 player, too, going to Rutgers. Rutgers will be good next year immediately. And this kid, I believe Dylan Harper will be better than his father.
I love the statement. I got to tell you something, Scotty. I always had a soft spot in my heart for the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. I like this school. They grind. And I'll tell you something, Edie, this guy grew up down the street from me, Leaside High School, Canada's national team now. He's getting better all the time. We talk about SGA. He's learning the ropes. This is the beautiful time for college basketball. I'm telling you, man, this kid's getting better and better and better. You said he's almost unstoppable right now. So this is good stuff. I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, well, they just have to stop getting in close games in the NCAA tournament because Painter loses every close game he's in. Purdue, when they're up 10 or more in a game, they destroy everyone. When they're in a game under 7 points, they become a completely fold-up shop team. Florida Atlantic beat SMU by 10 last night, and I knew that total wasn't going to happen. That ended up being a good game in Boca. Minnesota covered again. Have you ever seen anything like it? What is it now? 23-3 against the spread,
Yep.
22-3 against the spread.
23.
I laid 3.5 last night, and I covered.
Me, you, and Morency. Everybody, if you're not listening to us on SportsGrid, it's like Minnesota, you have to bet these guys. The books are giving them no respect as well, like short favorites all the time. Are you kidding me? This team's unbelievable. This ATS record is stupid, Scott. 20 games above, 23-3. We're betting the Gophers till we can't bet them anymore. Big win over Ohio State, who beat Purdue in their last game.
I had an 8-2-1 night on FerrallOnTheBench.com last night. One of the losses I had was the Michigan game with Northwestern because I bet the over 138.5 and it landed on 138. And then I pushed that Clippers 136. So that was the push. I went 8-2-1. So Northwestern did win that game at Evanston, but it landed a hook shy of glory. Gonzaga stomps Portland, Wilmington over William and Mary, Hofstra beat Drexel, Charleston over Delaware. How about Tarleton State? They upset Grand Canyon. No one cares. Wrong. You're talking about a team with only 3 losses. They're like 26-3. Grand Canyon's been fabulous. Moorhead beat Western Illinois. Oregon won at Stanford, just like we told you they would in Palo Alto. We gave you Irvine over the Gauchos. That hit, and LSU fined $100,000 for their party the other night on the floor after they upset Kentucky on Wednesday night. We continue on. We'll look at tonight's game with the Prime Minister next.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
do with the Nets, though? Because this team is hot garbage. I mean, poor Jacques Vaughn. Talk about just wrong place, wrong times.
I mean, the reason that they parted ways with Jacques Vaughn in the first place, this is a team that, yes, they had Kyrie and KD at the beginning of the year last year, but they were still a team that made the playoffs. They were still a team that took the game off the 76ers. And going into the All-Star break, they weren't even in the play-in picture.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back on C2C on a Friday, we're looking at tonight's college basketball slate with the Prime Minister. We'll start with this one on CBS Sports Network at 6. This one will tip off right when we're finished here. Kent State and Akron. Akron laying 7.5, 136 is the number. Anything you like there? Are you interested in that game?
Not really. I just know that a lot of people are betting Akron in that spot. I'd say buyer beware. It's just one of those things. They're 19-7 team, but last 10, 5-5 ATS. Kent's not very good. They're 13-13. They're middling, but something tells me to stay away from this game. It's dog or nothing.
All right. I bet this next game at Bowling Green, Toledo and Bowling Green. Listen to what I bet. I bet the under 157.5 at -110. I just do not believe those two teams are going into that stratosphere.
You know what, Scott? I like that total now, 158.5. I lean under as well. Toledo, they're a good basketball team. Bowling Green's actually a 16-win team right now. Very, very decent at home, 10-3. Tough game, but I'm not even going to screw around with the side. I'm with you. Let's ride that total, under 158.5.
Purdue Fort Wayne is at Green Bay. Green Bay's laying 3, 141. Both teams have 17 wins. Always tough to win on the road in conference play. Are you willing to go Green Bay at home and lay that three-piece?
Scott, this is my trap door of the night. Wisconsin, Green Bay, everybody and their mother's going to bet these guys. I'll tell you, you know what? Purdue, Fort Wayne, these guys are actually pretty decent on the road. They cover numbers. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take a shot with them plus the 2.5, and I'm going to take them on the money line. I'm going to split it up. My upset tonight, taking Purdue, Fort Wayne.
All right, I bet this next game, it's the Cornell game at home against Yale. I bet it at Cornell -2.5 at home. I know how good Yale has been in Ivy play, but nobody respects Cornell. They got 19. They're going for their 20th win. They're 19-4. I bet Cornell and laid 2 and a hook.
These guys don't lose at home. Cornell's on fire. I'm with you. I like Cornell in this spot. Great game. 17-7 Yale against 19-4 Cornell. Are you kidding me? This is the Ivy League special tonight. But give me Cornell in this spot. I'm with you, buddy. We're going to get it done. They're going to win this game.
Princeton is at Harvard in Boston. Harvard getting 6, 141. I stayed away from it.
That game's got trouble written all over it. You're right, Scott. We have enough problems in our lives. We're already betting other games, and I got some from the MAC. So I'm going to have to pass on Princeton, Harvard. But I wish you luck in your studies, children. Smart schools.
Youngstown State and Milwaukee. The Penguins are on the road. I like them laying 3 on the road, 162.5. I also think it's too high, but I like this Youngstown team going for their 20th win tonight. I have thought for a while that they're an NCAA at-large team. If they don't win, in the conference, in the, tournament, in the Horizon.
You're right. You know what? If you're 19 winning the Horizon, I think you actually should get a taste, maybe a play-in game. This is a huge game for Youngstown State, Scott, because if they win on the road, that's a big, significant win against, I know Milwaukee's 14-13, but they're very good at home. Youngstown State, I lean that way as well. Go Penguins.
So we didn't have it on the board, but you see these other games, Fairfield and Quinnipiac. Yep. Quinnipiac at home laying 2.5. Nevada at San Jose State laying 9.5. I think Nevada will whack San Jose State. And another game that I bet on that we don't have on the board is I bet Duquesne to win laying 2.5 on the streets in the Boogie Down Bronx at Rose Hill Gym, which is the greatest gym in America when it comes to the smell of freshly popped popcorn. When you walk into that old barn with those wooden seats in that 100-year-old gym and it smells like popcorn on a Saturday, it's better than sex.
I like popcorn as much as sex sometimes, Scott, but I'd say sex is pretty good. Duquesne, you're a Pittsburgh guy. our update guy. We got Duquesne versus Fordham. I'm like, it's Duquesne, numbnuts. Anyway, good game tonight, too. Never been to Fordham, never smelt the popcorn, but I like Duquesne as well in the spot. Scott, I got one more for you, too. This game is being overlooked. Do you know the Niagara Purple Eagles are 12-1 ATS on the road against Canisius? Beautiful.
Yeah, so what is the number in that game? It's they're laying 1.5. I like that bet.
I'll tell you something. I'm betting these guys on the road till they prove otherwise. This is the old Brian Blessing special. Niagara versus Canisius. Giggle away, boys. Giggle away. Yeah, he loves the MAC basketball. Let's go Niagara, baby. Purple Eagles it is.
And I like Columbia in New York City tonight, laying 3.5 against Brown. Now, let me get you excited about Saturday, tomorrow, all day, the top 25 games. You got Duke at Wake Forest in Winston-Salem, North Carolina's at Virginia, Alabama 13 against 17 Kentucky at Rupp at 4 o'clock on CBS. Number 14, Auburn's at Georgia at 6. Nova and UConn in stores. They're playing it in stores on Fox at 8 o'clock primetime. The Huskies coming off a loss to Creighton. Number 2, Houston at number 11, Baylor on CBS at noon. You mentioned that you're on the Bears in Waco tomorrow, Cam.
Here's the deal. Houston, you saw what they do at home to teams. They absolutely pummel them. But look at them on the road, Scott. Very average. They got to change that. If you want to go to the tournament, we know Houston has lockdown D, but look at Baylor at home. All they do is win and cover at home. We're getting 2.5, 3 with the Bears. If Houston wins this game and covers, then I'll be impressed. But they got to figure it out on the road. To be a great team, you got to win at home and on the road. Give me Baylor right now.
Florida, number 24 at home against Vandy. They're going to smack that ass. Washington's at Arizona. They're not losing at the McHale again like they did last night. Iowa State will beat West Virginia at the Hilton. That one's at 2 o'clock. BYU's at Kansas State at 2 o'clock. Iowa's in Champaign against number 12, Illinois. I like the Illini coming off the loss to Penn State. I think they'll turn it around and beat Iowa. Number 20, South Carolina. They're posers. I bet they get knocked off in Oxford by Ole Miss. 23, Texas Tech at UCF. The Raiders will win on the road there. Texas and Kansas at Fog Allen at 6 on ESPN. A&M's in Knoxville against number 5, Tennessee. I told you, number 21, Washington State's at Arizona State in Tempe. They're going to show them what day it is. Number 22, Colorado State's at UNLV at the MAC at 8 East. In Sin City to Mega Hub. St. Mary's in Moraga hosting San Diego. That'll be smackdown time. And San Diego State on the road, I like them against Fresno, 10 o'clock on CBS Sports Network on Saturday night. Just so you know, Sunday's best games, Creighton and St. John's at the Garden in New York. It's Pitino's last stand. If they don't win this game, they're not going to win any game that matters the rest of the way. And Creighton should beat their ass because that's how much better they are than St. John's. Number 3, Purdue against Michigan at Chrysler. Xavier's at Marquette at Fiserv. Marquette's winning that game. SMU and USF down in Tampa. FAU's at the Pyramid in Memphis. Youngstown State at Green Bay. St. Joe's is at VCU in Richmond. And Minnesota, Nebraska. You talked about that game, Prime. Yep. And I'll tell you what, I'm still willing, if I get 3.5, 4 points to take the Gophers in Lincoln, I still think Nebraska finds a way to win that game by a bucket.
This is the game, Scott. If Minnesota covers against Nebraska, we'll just go, oh, my God. Right now, if it stays under 4, I will take the Cornhuskers here. I don't like going against Minnesota with that hot trend, hottest ATS team, but I'm taking Nebraska because they don't lose at home.
The Lady Hoosiers beat Caitlin Clark and Iowa 86-69, the biggest loss for Iowa since the title game last year. Caitlin Clark still 75 points away from Pete Maravich. Will she pass him?
Yes, but you got to start betting on the Lady Hoosiers because the guys aren't getting it done, brother.
I wish they'd fire Woodson. I told you to hire Dusty May or hire me.
Though, because this team is hot garbage. I mean, poor Jacques Vaughn. Talk about just wrong place, wrong times.
I mean, the reason that they parted ways with Jacques Vaughn in the first place, this is a team that, yes, they had Kyrie and KD at the beginning of the year last year, but they were still a team that made the playoffs. They were still a team that took the game off the 76ers. And going into the All-Star break, they weren't even in the play-in picture.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Johnny's a 19-point lead late in the opening half, only to squander that lead. Hall ball under Shaheen Holloway coming all the way back.
All these guards start jacking up shots, and then Chioriano doesn't get the ball. Hey, Rick, how about stop throwing your kids under the bus and get your big man the ball, your best player, play inside out like you were doing earlier in the game, and you probably would have won.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The brighter the lights, the bigger the stakes. Hunt or be hunted. Know your prey. This is a whole new jungle. This is The Lion's Share. Brought to you by BetMGM.
All right, BetMGM just giving away stacks. It's just unbelievable. You know, if you use the bonus code SG150, they'll give you 150 in bonus bets. It doesn't matter who you are. They're just giving away stacks of money. Place your first BetMGM sportsbook wager through their BetMGM mobile app, and you have to sign up for it. All you have to do is go to iOS or Android or BetMGM.com, download the app, sign up, get an account, put $5 in there to start it, then bet the $5, standard odds on anything, and it doesn't matter what you bet on. Win or lose, you're going to get 150 in bonus bets immediately. You're going to love it. And then you're going to be able to move forward with BetMGM and use your BetMGM app to bet on everything, every day, everywhere, always. And I think you're going to dig it. Coach Young joins us every day on the Lion's Share. And you can follow him at Coach Young NJ on X. And a programming note, tomorrow and Sunday, both days, we'll be on from noon to 4 with a blowout of college and pro hoops, absolute blowout style. We're going to blow out so much on Saturday and Sunday on hoops that next week management has decided to cut the show in half because we're too entertaining and too informative. 4 hours of us is an overdose of basketball. So starting next Saturday and Sunday, we do betting above the rim from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. But tomorrow and Sunday, this weekend, 12 to 4, in-game live, all access. All right, Coach, you spend more time with me than your family now.
I know. I'm worried when Steph and Chop Suey are going to get a little bit jealous. Although my family wants to get rid of me sometimes, and maybe Steph and Chop want to get rid of you. So at least we got each other, brother. At least we got each other.
So I was talking about with Cam, this Washington State team, and they, went to the McHale Center and they won outright. And they're going to go spank that ass in Tempe this weekend because Bobby Hurley's team stinks. So my question is twofold. One, how high are you on this team in the Pac-12 tourney in Vegas? How high are you on them in the NCAAs? They're going to be like a mid-range seed for sure. I'm thinking somewhere like 8, 9, 10 type seed, right? And then do you believe Bobby Hurley wants to run away from Tempe and take another job in the East Coast because he's done such a horrible job with Arizona State, and it's starting to make him look like a bad coach. If he doesn't run now, he may never get a chance.
Hey, listen, Ferrall, I haven't seen a guy from the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, go out to Arizona and want to leave quicker than him than Sammy the Bull Gravano once he went out to Arizona and he had to get out of town. So, listen, when you think about Washington State, really quick, Kyle Smith's done an incredible job. And think about the fact they've won at Washington, at Oregon State, at Oregon, and obviously at Arizona during this winning streak. They haven't lost a game since the 20th, a crazy 81-75 loss to Cal. Here's the thing, folks. They can defend, right? And when you look at a team as a coach, you have one or two options, right? Number one, you cut the head off of the snake, right? And then you make everybody else try and make shots. Or you let the main guy just shoot the ball like crazy and you lock everybody else up. What they did was absolutely masterful last night in regard to the fact they forced Caleb Love, who has a propensity to shoot the ball too much. Ask Carolina fans about this. He shot the ball in a crazy amount. And when you got that monster, Ballo, down low, and that guy is getting 8 shots, for real, he was 6 for 8. How does this guy get only 8 shots when he's one of the most effective bigs in the country? So Caleb Love shoots 20 shots, 12 from 3, way too much. They should have pounded the ball inside. But that's the part I like about Washington State. They find something and they pick at it. They've done an incredible job. This guy needs to be talked about for Coach of the Year. And yes, they could make a run in the Pac-12 tournament. Now, listen, USC, UCLA, Washington, before that, obviously, Arizona State tomorrow. Ferrall, they can run the table here because all the games after tomorrow are at home. So imagine they run the table and go into the Pac-12 tournament. That team could be looking at possibly, Ferrall, ready for this? How about a 4 or a 5 seed for Washington State?
Whoa, they don't want to give that team that high a seed, even though I think you're right and they deserve it. They don't want to give some team that nobody knows jack shack about a 5 seed. I can guarantee you that. They reserve those for blue bloods and their favorites. You know how they are. They play favorites, that tournament committee. That's just all there is to it. Let me ask you this question. I brought it up earlier. I was talking about Dusty May. And I was talking about, and they won last night again in Boca by 10 over SMU. Good game. They're a good team again. Final Four team. He was a student manager when he worked for Bob Knight in Bloomington. He was literally a water boy. And now he's the head coach at FAU. And I've been hearing that he's talking to Ohio State about that job in Columbus. What I wish would happen would be that he would lose his phone, get kidnapped by a bunch of frat boys from Bloomington, and duct tape his face, stick him in the trunk of a car, drive him to Bloomington, fire Mike Woodson, and give Dusty May the Indiana job. I don't want to see that guy at Ohio State. He should be in Bloomington.
Listen, I'm going to say something real quick, Ferrall. The former athletes of universities with guys that have no college coaching experience, it has become a huge failure. Look at Juwan Howard. Look at Mike Woodson. Look at Patrick Ewing. You can look at Chris Mullen. You can look at a whole bunch of other coaches that have gone to college with no background and gotten their brains beaten because it's different, Ferrall. It's different because you got to recruit, you got to get players, and it's about development. That's the part. And here's the thing people need to understand, okay? I want people to understand this for college. You get 4 hours on the floor with them before the season, until 6 weeks out before practice starts, and then after the season, right? 4 hours on the floor. You get 4 hours with the weight room, whatever. Then you get 20 hours from 6 weeks out from the first game to the end of the season. 20 hours a week. 2.5 hours counts for every game. Every practice counts. Every lift counts. So you got to be really good at developing and honing skills. You don't need that in the NBA. NBA, you got unlimited coaches. You have unlimited hours. It's a different mindset. So to me, I think Kenny Payne. I forgot about Kenny Payne. That's another one. You got to be careful when you hire these guys without experience. Ready? Do what Georgia Tech did. Let Damon Stoudemire go somewhere. He'll fix it at Georgia Tech. Let him earn his stripes at a low D1 school and then work his way up. Obviously, Damon Stoudemire went to Arizona, but you get my point. Stop hiring these guys from the pros who have no collegiate head coaching experience and give them the keys to a high major program. Ferrall, it does not work.
Do you think Dusty May is getting the Ohio State job?
He should. He absolutely should. He showed what he can do. And I think it's amazing what these guys, you're going to start hearing Dusty May a lot, right? You may hear the guy at Washington State, Kyle Smith. Maybe he gets a bigger job. Even in my backyard, I'm telling you right now, if I'm a high major program and I got NIL money, I'm calling Shaheen Holloway right now. I know he's a North Jersey guy. I know he's a Newark Elizabeth kid. I know he went to Seton Hall. But damn it, that guy can coach my kid any day, twice on Sunday. Stop the retreads, stop the big name alumni, and go get a go-getter who has built a team from the ground up.
Obvious talking in my ear that you should go jump off a bridge. Stop talking about my coach. Stop selling. Shut your mouth. Stop selling my coach to other teams and other programs. He's staying at Seton Hall. Shut your face. Oh, listen to him. Go get the Popeyes chicken sandwich. You better start filming. This is the stuff I'm hearing in my ear right now. All right, let's look at Coach's favorite plays for tonight. Let's start with the Cavs game in Philly.
I'm going to go with the Cavs minus a 4.5 points. Listen, I think Philadelphia's in trouble, folks, and they're going to tread water until they get, JoJo back, if he even comes back. Donovan Mitchell should be back tonight. Cleveland, way more firepower. They're going to be pissed off after that loss to Orlando last night at home. Give me the Cavs minus the points on the road.
And Denver, easy money at the Moda in Rip City because the Blazers are god-awful.
Man, the Blazers be blazing too much. So I'm going to go with the Nuggets minus 9.5 points. I mean, some people look at that over-under. I just didn't want to touch that because it's 218.5. Denver, folks, this is when you start to make your money. Teams are going to start to make their move. Denver wins big on a blowout.
You got my boy Sengun on a prop in H-Town tonight.
Oh, the Turkish treat. Alperen Şengün over 20.5 points. Listen, he's missing the last couple of games, but 24 the last game. Nurkic will have problems guarding him. Nurkic off a bad game last night. The best player that you may not know, Alperen Şengün, over 20.5 points.
All right, and Ice Tray tonight in Hot Town. What do you got him doing?
Oh, Ice Tray going to be cooking. Over 24.5 points, over 8 of his last 13. Folks, 5 straight games versus Toronto, who plays no defense, on a back-to-back, have to travel. Trey goes off tonight.
I have no idea how Coach is going to get the video of him eating the spicy chicken sandwich at Popeyes by tomorrow at noon. He's starting to look on Google Maps for a location near him in the hood. That's where he has to film. He better get it done. He knows what happens to Welchers on In-Game Live All Access tomorrow at noon.
The Lion's Share, presented by BetMGM.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
So I had my Indiana hoodie on yesterday, and when Mafia called Jerry Palm to get him on the show, he said, Ferrall looks really fat in that Indiana hoodie. Like, see, these kind of comments are really unnecessary when I'm just trying to, get through the college basketball season and get to the NCAA tournament. I got this guy slinging accusations and nasty thoughts. It's unbelievable. Here he is, Mr. Bracketology himself, Jerry Palm from CBS. And I got to ask you, I asked this question of Coach Young, and I want to get it from you. What do you know about Dusty May and Ohio State? And I want to see Mike Woodson go and Indiana give Dusty May a shot in Bloomington. Are they going to lose him to Ohio State? What could be worse?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really, at this time of year especially, really keyed into coaching rumors. But that wouldn't surprise me at all. He's one of the hot names out there with what he's done at Florida Atlantic. I'm sure Ohio State would have him on a short list of people that they'd be interested in. Obviously, it'll be the end of the season before they can go after him, really. But, I would expect that he would be on that list, sure.
What could be worse than that Purdue hoodie you have on right now? That whatever that slick
shirt is. It's actually a hockey sweater.
It's a hockey, like he's wearing a hockey sweater with a big P on it. It's insulting to me. Let me ask you this question. Do you think Indiana has the stones to fire Woodson with as much juice as he had with Bob Knight as one of Knight's favorites? And then they brought him in there, and he's got this huge payout if they have to fire him. And I got to tell you, when I watch him coach that team now, they lose every night. Those kids don't listen to him. In the huddle, those kids are so far away from him yelling at them that it's not even funny. I'm like watching guys, they're looking out into space, and that kid Ware looks like he regrets going to Indiana. He's got a look on his face. He looks like a mope.
Yeah. I don't know that anybody's wasting more talent than Indiana this year. I mean, they got, 2 5-star guys that start, right? They've got 2 guys that are higher recruits than anybody on Purdue's roster by a lot, and they can't win. It's not just coaching, but I think it's a lot coaching, and part of it is he recruited guys, but he also can't engage them. You have to be able to engage them, and for whatever reason, that's not happening, and this thing is snowballing badly. If they continue to tank the end of this year the way they are, I don't see how they can keep him. But if they show any sign of life at all, I'm sure they'll give him another chance.
So, Jerry, you have Washington State as a 6th seed. We were talking about it earlier. I had them like, this committee I would think that they would not want a Washington State as a high seed. They'd put them in I said 8 to 10 range. You have them as a 6. And I think that's because you realize how good they are, how tough they are. They proved it at the McHale Center last night. I think they'll finish off Arizona State this weekend and get the double in Arizona. But you like them as a 6 seed in the Midwest against Purdue. Purdue wants no part of that team in a close game.
No, I mean, there's actually some similarities in the way that they play. I mean, they don't play through the post like Purdue does, but just in their general toughness and desire when they play. Because, they have to. I mean, that's just, if Washington State's going to be successful, they have to go hard every night. And they do. They go hard every night, and they outfight some of these teams that they're playing. And it's a credit to the coach and those players for being able to put together this kind of a season. They lost their top 2 guys, I think, off of last year's team kind of late. And they had to go out and scramble, and they get a guy from like the JUCO ranks, and they get a guy from the Big Sky, and they put these pieces together, and it took a little while, but they're really playing well. They are the deserved leader of this league, and they're probably going to win the Pac-12 regular season now, but they have to make sure that they don't get too happy after that win last night and give it away this weekend at Arizona State.
So, well, I don't think that's happening. Arizona State's awful, and I think Bobby Hurley wants to leave there. And if anybody offered him a job right about now in the East Coast, I think he'd run to it. And I've said that repeatedly on this show. He hasn't done, in my opinion, a good job at all in Tempe. And that team they're worse than Indiana. I mean, they really are. Like, look at their record. They stink. Now, let me ask you about Purdue for a second. So I watched the Boilermakers. I think Edie's a badass. I like Smith. My problem with him is Painter in close games. If it's a 5-point game in the tournament and there's 10 minutes left in the game and it's not moving anywhere from 5 except down to 3 and 2 and back to 4 and 5, I don't like this guy in tight games. Last night was a perfect example of what they do to everyone else. If it's 10 or more, Purdue destroys everyone they play. What is their problem in tight games? Is it their coach?
Well, they had plenty of tight games early on when they were in the Maui Invitational. I mean, they were playing tight games. They were winning tight games. Purdue's problem when they lose isn't, that the game is tight. It's that they've turned the ball over so much that they're not really giving themselves a chance to be as efficient on offense as they usually are. Their turnover margin in the games that they lose is something like -9. That's insane. So that's it. If the Purdue takes care of the basketball and they're able to run an offense, you're pretty well doomed. So close game, long game, whatever, if you can't turn the ball over from Purdue, if you can't get turnovers and capitalize on turnovers, you're probably not going to beat Purdue.
So your first four in right now, heading into this weekend, is Utah, Ole Miss, Colorado, and Gonzaga, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those. And your thoughts on those? Why did you pick those?
Well, I mean, they're all different. Gonzaga, the last team in, probably is not going to be in if we get to Selection Sunday and their only good win is still the win at Kentucky. If they're 0-3 against St. Mary's, but they beat Kentucky, that's not going to be good enough. They're going to have to beat St. Mary's at some point in this season or win the automatic bid.
Right.
They finish at St. Mary's the regular season. Could see them again in the conference tournament. But if they're not automatic qualifier and they haven't beaten St. Mary's, I don't think they're going to make it.
St. Mary's is going to pound San Diego tomorrow night in Moraga. And then I want to get your thoughts on that Ole Miss game in Oxford with South Carolina, because I'm done with that South Carolina Gamecock team. They're phonies. Last week, losing in Columbia to LSU was all I needed to see. I just don't buy their record. I don't buy them. Does Ole Miss handle them in Oxford Saturday?
They need to. I mean, it's a big game for them because even though it looks like South Carolina's running out of gas, that's still going to count as a big win for Ole Miss. They need all their wins at this point, but certainly wins over teams that are in the bracket and higher up, they need all those wins. So, yeah, they need to play with a level of desperation because that's the mode they're actually in.
What do you think Creighton does to St. John's at the Garden Sunday? Don't tell me St. John's can play with them. St. John's, another team worse than Indiana.
Yeah, St. John's there's just not enough there for them to be successful in this league. The top half of this league is too good for St. John's to be competitive night in and night out. They might get a win here or a win there, but they're just not ready for the competition at the top level of the Big East. I mean, if Creighton, again, if they're not too high off that win and they come in and take that game seriously, I don't think there's much St. John's can do about it.
You have flipped in the West. Arizona is the 1 seed with North Carolina. Now you have the Heels 1 and Zona 2. Obviously, the Washington State loss hurt Arizona last night at the McHale Center. You like the Heels as the top seed now out West.
Yeah, I actually had them as a 2. They were not out West. They were in UConn's region in the East. But, yeah, they're slightly better than Arizona, and it was a tough call. I think their wins are just slightly better, and their losses are just slightly better. But it only takes one bad result for that to possibly flip back again. But what's noteworthy now is that Purdue, Connecticut, Houston, they're almost locks as number 1 seeds. They can lose twice, each of those teams, and still be on the top line of the bracket. And it doesn't really seem likely that any of them are going to lose twice, let alone all of them.
Yeah, let alone at all. But I love some of the teams in that region: Nebraska, Iowa State, San Diego State, to name a few of them. I want to see what your other side is. In the South, you have Houston 1, Marquette 2, Bama 3, Illinois 4. That region also has Northwestern in it, Indiana State in it. That's intriguing. The Anteaters, the Aggies of Utah State, Nevada. That is an absolutely insane region.
Yeah, it's loaded, no question. And I think Illinois is a team that is probably better than its resume and is probably better than the 4 seed. But yeah, it's just their resume doesn't stand up to that, so that's why they're a 4. But that's a team that could get hot. I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois stepped up and won the Big Ten tournament, because that is a talented team, especially on the perimeter. And now that Shannon's back, the only problem I have with Shannon is that sometimes he goes too fast. And Coleman Hawkins sometimes loses his mind a little bit. But, that Damask kid from Southern Illinois is really good. I like the pieces that Illinois has, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put together a run of some sort. And, they've got Marcus Damask from Southern Illinois. Purdue's got Lance Jones from Southern Illinois. How did Southern Illinois not win the Missouri Valley last year with those 2 guys?
Right? I mean, honestly, in the East, you got UConn as the 1 and the overall number 1 seed. Kansas.
No, Purdue is overall number 1 again after UConn lost to Creighton.
Okay, so they lost to Creighton, and then Danny was getting into it with fans. UConn 1, Kansas 2, Duke 3, Auburn 4, and some of the other teams in that region, Michigan State, I'm not worried about them. FAU, I'd be worried if I had to play them. Auburn can play with anybody. I thought they vomited on themselves last week at home at Neville on Saturday to Kentucky in front of everyone when they had game day there, and then they played so bad at night.
Yeah, they kind of had a game like that coming because it's just been so dominant that it's just figured they were due for a letdown game. And, of course, Jalen Williams got hurt in that game. And so, but fortunately, he's going to be back sometime this year. It's not lost the season. I don't know exactly when. I haven't seen that. But, that's a key guy for them. And there's a bit of a shock when that happens, although I think the game was getting out of hand already when that happened. So, yeah, Auburn is a team that I kind of want to see more in the big win category from. But they've been really dominant, especially on their home floor.
Who do you like? Houston and Baylor in Waco tomorrow at noon. Houston laying 2.5 at the Bears.
I like Houston to win a low-scoring game, a rock fight, which is kind of their MO anyway. And if they can keep it scoring down, then Houston wins. If Baylor can get their offense going, then Houston's going to have a problem.
Does Duke lose at Wake tomorrow, or do they cover the 1.5 and get it done? You think they lose?
Yeah, I think they could. Yeah, Wake Forest is desperate for this win. They really, really need something like this if they're going to make the NCAA tournament.
And what about Bama at Kentucky at Rupp? And Kentucky's laying 1.5 tomorrow at 4 on CBS.
I don't know. I kind of like Alabama. I like the way they're going now. But Alabama's one of those teams it's almost entirely three-point shooting. And if they have an off day, man, they can really look bad.
Jerry, enjoy the hoops this weekend. Love you. Great stuff, buddy.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
do with the Nets, though, because this team is hot garbage. I mean, poor Jacques Vaughn. Talk about just wrong place, wrong times.
I mean, the reason that they parted ways with Jacques Vaughn in the first place, this is a team that, yes, they had Kyrie and KD at the beginning of the year last year, but they were still a team that made the playoffs. They were still a team that took the game off the 76ers. And going into the All-Star break, they weren't even in the play-in picture.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early
The
line.
magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Ferrall Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, today in sports history, in 64, Richard Petty leads for a record 184 of 200 laps to win the Daytona 5. In 68, Will Chamberlain becomes the first NBA player to amass 25,000 career points. In 69, Leroy Yarbrough catches Charlie Glotzbach on the final lap to win the 500. First time ever that the race was won on a last lap pass. Here it is.
And here's where it's going to have to happen. Down the backstretch, and Leroy picks up a little ground on Charlie Glotzbach. Leroy getting closer. They're going close to 200 miles an hour here. And Leroy takes him. Yarbrough has taken the lead as they go side by side, splitting another car as they go by. At breakneck speed, Leroy Yarbrough has the lead on Glotzbach, and Charlie now will have to come down fast to the inside out of the number 4 turn. He'll try and slingshot him if he has room. And there's no room there. They come by, everybody standing and cheering. The checkered flag is out for Leroy Yarbrough.
There you go. I'm just glad a guy named Leroy won it. In 85, Patrick Waugh makes his NHL debut for the Canadiens. 86, Wade Boggs loses to the Red Sox in arbitration, but still gets the largest award in arbitration history in baseball at that time of $1.35 million. In 87, Dick Hauser, the Royals manager, retires due to a brain tumor. He would later die. In 88, the city of Chicago gives the Cubs the rights to install lights and play 18 night games a season at Wrigley Field. In 2014, Dale Jr. breaks a 55-race winless streak to win his second Daytona 500. In 2014, Canada wins hockey gold as they beat Sweden 3-0 in the gold medal game to be the first team to finish the tourney undefeated since 84. In 2019, Messi scores his 50th hat trick of his career as Barcelona beat Sevilla 4-2 in La Liga. And in 21, Tiger Woods on this day crashes his car driving south of L.A., injuring both of his legs. Remember that dramatic scene and what a gigantic news story that was. We got another hour to go, fortunately, with the Prime Minister on Speed of Steve.